Hi everyone, I'm John Williams.
And I'm Rory Williams, and we're here in our historic Red Barn to taste a few wines with you.
Oh, yes, we are.
We're here tasting through a pretty cool horizontal of wines.
A horizontal, what's a horizontal?
Well, that's when you're tasting all the different varieties.
When you lay down when you taste?
Yeah, exactly. Which is, it's usually after I taste.
Oh, I see. No, it's three wines from the same vintage. Mm-hmm. How many wineries can do this? I mean, this is kind of fun, really, to try our big three red wines, Zinfandel, Merlot, and Cabernet Sauvignon, all from the same vintage. And it was an interesting vintage, really.
Yeah, it was, kind of a little
You were in
I wasn't a wee lad, but I was reading books, as a student.
Hegel.
Wasn't making wine yet. Well, you were fashioning
hard at work.
Some fabulous wines.
Well, I would be able to tell if you would pour me just a little bit. We're going to start with the Zinfandel. Why do we start with Zinfandel? I just think it's got a nice fruitiness to it. It's kind of the warm-up act, if you will.
Zin's always kind of the most generous of the wines, the most exuberant of the wines, and is the way to kind of get you in the mood.
Oh my gosh, I haven't had this in a little while. This is pretty good. Yeah. You better. Oh, I'm sorry. Did you not pour yourself?
No, you stormed my glass, but that's okay.
Sorry. Yeah. Well, 2006 Zinfandel. Now this has got 15 years on it, right?
You're very good at math.
I'm good at math. Yeah, that's one thing I'm good at. Yeah.
2006. Nice long harvest. Coming the year before some of the big rains that we got the following year. But this, Deb, was I think one of the first years where we really got a lot of our fruit from our what's now sort of at the center of our Zinfandel, which is the White Barn Vineyard in St. Helena. This is when we got that vineyard back on track, got it into organics, got it back to dry farmed Zinfandel on the kind of Gold Coast of St. Helena.
A good recollection. Now, this wine is really this vineyard was really hitting its stride in 2006. We were working with some nice Petit Syrah in this, and this is really a kind of a modern classic, if you will, of Frog's Leap Zinfandels, and you see the style. Zinfandel takes many faces. It goes everything from white Zinfandel or rosé to the biggest, boldest, wildest, really tough to drink.
Lamp oil.
Yeah, lamp oil. This fits right into that beautiful space where you just want to drink this wine and have it with food too. I think this
definitely have it with food. I think this wine, the 06 Zin, is definitely hitting its middle age. It's kind of shed some of its baby fat of the super purpley fruit or blue fruit. Instead, this is all about red fruit, starting to get some of that earthiness to the wine, gaining a lot of complexity. Just being something that
This wine makes me smile because it brings back I got to meet old Louis Martini one point in my early career, and he looked at me, he says, "John, don't let your Zinfandels get old. They start smelling like those damn Bordeaux wines," which for an Italian producer
is a four-letter word back in the day.
This is really taking on some nuances.
Getting some what people call kind of that claret aroma, a little bit of forest floor. But still, I think even when Zinfandel gets very old, when it gets 30 years plus in the glass, and this is nowhere near that, it still retains this kind of, essence, this identity with Zinfandel, where there's always a little bit of a wild fruit core to the wine that I think still shows up in this wine.
Yeah, it makes me want to know what the Merlot tastes like. What do you got there? Come on, let's pour
do it.
Yeah. This is an interesting Merlot in that this is 100% Merlot. And we love it when we can make a Merlot 100% because Merlot's got a beautiful fruit character of itself. And this is going to be interesting for me because typically I think of Merlot as having a red fruited sort of character, a beautiful plum or almost a deep raspberry sort of character, as opposed to Cabernet Sauvignon, which is more black fruit, more blackberry or currant or cassis. And so I'm going to be interested to try these together. But 2006 Merlot, 100% Merlot, which keeps the purity of the aromatics going on.
100% Merlot, and actually this would have been one of the first vintages that featured a significant amount of fruit from the vines that we have planted here at the Red Barn. Deb, when we got here in 1994, there were vineyards surrounding the old Red Barn that we're standing in right now, but none of them were Merlot.
And most of them were dead.
And most of them were about half dead. And we didn't have, I remember you didn't really have any money at the time to start replanting right away. And
Rory, this might be a bad time to tell you.
Are you saying you don't have any money right now?
No, I don't have any money right now either.
But starting in 2003, 2004, we started really being able to plant the property here to what we thought was the best variety available for the soil here. And sort of on the southern part of the property, not right next to the entrance, but just as you're rounding the corner about to turn into Frog's Leap, that's where actually the bulk of our Merlot now is planted in these beautiful clay loam soils.
So why is clay important with Merlot?
You know, Merlot likes those cold feet. The clay tends to hold on to the colder temperatures through the summer just a little bit longer, tends to lock in a little bit of that extra moisture.
Slows the vigor.
But it definitely slows the vigor down, which is very critical with Merlot. Merlot can grow very big, and when it does that, it gets a little weedy and is really, really tough to manage. But you know, this is young vine Merlot in a way. We look at these vines now and they look old and gnarled, but these would have been just little babies when we started picking the fruit off this ranch. And pretty good, Dad. I think this has got some of that dark plum character to it a lot.
Now, so this is a horizontal. Going back to the Zinfandel. Do you see any? Anything that would say these are from the same vintages? This is a test.
I think you're getting a little bit of that long harvest period. So 2006 had this we had a little bit of heat in the summer, as I was starting to say earlier before you cut me off. No, he does that.
And as I was saying, I'm sorry.
I got to jump in. But the harvest period was remarkably cool. And it's not unusual for us to have 95 degree, 100 degree days, even during August, during the start of harvest. And it just wasn't that way in 2006. This was a super cool harvest, lots of what we call fogust, so lots of fog during the August and kind of early harvest period that really cools things down.
Fogust?
Yeah, fogust.
I've never heard of that before. You made that up.
Yeah, well, I just made it up right now. But I thought you loved puns. So,
I do love puns, yeah.
We're a pun-filled winery here. But that really locks in a lot of that freshness of the wine, which Merlot is very susceptible to just kind of these extremes of temperatures and climate in a way that can kind of push it in the wrong direction. But that cool harvest period, I think, is what you're getting with both of these, because Zinfandel as well can, if you get super hot temperatures during harvest, the grapes can kind of shrivel up, get a little raisiny, but you're tasting that kind of cool fall period and getting the long harvest period. I think what you're tasting in the wines.
It's interesting if you look up this vintage in a vintage report. This vintage got a B+ rating, and the reason was that it wasn't hot during the harvest, but that actually plays into our hands with respect to the style and the ageability of these wines. So I think this is an A vintage for me.
Well, and you got to remember these wines, and we'll pour the Cabernet here as well.
Yes, please. Thank you very much.
It'll show the same thing, which these wines were made right in what we kind of call the steroids era of Napa, which was the fashion, the mode of expression for Napa Cab.
Bigger was better.
Bigger was better.
Yeah.
If you couldn't get these things to 16% alcohol, then something was wrong with the vintage. And for us, these nice, cool harvest periods play right into what we love about making wine here in Napa. And Dad, what are you getting out of the 06?
Well, I'm getting that this was a well curated horizontal, because these wines have really got a lot of vintage familiarity, and I think that's really kind of cool. I think these wines are set up, and I think it's why we make these offerings as a chance to. I honestly recommend having some friends over and drinking all three of these wines at the same time, and a good question is what were you doing in 2006? That's long enough ago that you were in college and I was making these wines. There were lots of things were going on in life, and I know it's only been 15 years, but I mean that's enough that it gives you a chance to kind of think about how your life has changed in 15 years, and then you can compare that to how the wines and we're in the vintage. That's part of the fun of drinking wines that have got just a little bit of time on them. And
Dad, I'm getting a ton of cedar and kind of this tobacco-y aroma almost out of the wine. It has this very high tone kind of earthiness to it. It's really
it's
delicious.
On its way to the cedar cigar box aromatics that we absolutely love about Cabernet Sauvignon, made in this style, which allows for it to develop that. It's lost, as you mentioned, quite a bit of its baby fat now, and it's really becoming a mature, sleek, young wine that I think it's got a lot of promise for the future as well.
What I'm also getting here, Dad, at the core of the wine is this kind of really dense black fruit, that kind of what the French would call cassis, we'd call black currant, which is a very classic aroma for Cabernet Sauvignon, which, when you push it too hard, can be this kind of over-the-top, syrupy, kind of confectionery kind of character. And if it's not there at all, then the wine can lack a little bit of pleasure. But this wine has got it locked in a way that this is, a fully, kind of early middle age for Cabernet. Really, this is really just starting to bloom, I imagine. With 15 years on it, you could say, yeah, this wine is kind of showing everything that we love about Cabernet. But I think this wine could spend some time in a decanter. It could spend a little bit more time in bottle if you even wanted it to. But I think this is one to open up, get into your glass, take a big sip, and let it kind of develop. And,
that's exactly what I'm going to do. Here's to you all. Enjoy a horizontal of the red wines of Frog's Leap
from 2006. Thank you.